Part 43. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wan Qing Buletin Liang. Chapter 421. Uncle Hat from Dongcheng District received the alarm call and immediately dispatched the police. Deputy Director Molly led 2 police officers and 5 auxiliary police officers and drove hurriedly towards the alarm location. Oh, there are still people fighting at this late hour. I'm really full, one of the Hat uncles said with a smile. Who says it's not the case? If you ask me, we should organize idle personnel to patrol. That's right, since we have so much free time, we might as well organize them to catch those nasty sap gangs. They started committing crimes last year and have killed 9 people now. Masuo, I think this is a great idea. Look. Mama rolled his eyes, took off his hat and scratched his scalp. You guys can pull it off. It's good if they don't cause trouble for us. It's completely fanciful to expect them to catch thieves. Everyone else in the car burst into laughter. In fact, they were just joking for fun. After all, everyone on the night shift was a little out of sorts. Oh, it seems to be right in front, Molly said, pointing to the intersection ahead. The caller's phone number was very vague and only gave an approximate location, so they had to search around. Horse, horse. Don't humming scream. Is there a girl here? Just call me Mom. No, look at it, one of the Hat uncles pointed to a street lamp not far away. I saw 3 men and 1 woman standing under the street lamp. The 3 men were all puffing away and looking this way with a smile. There was nothing strange about this. What was shocking was that not far from the group of people, there were several corpses lying in random directions. The blood flowing from 2 or 3 of the corpses formed a small pool of blood. Molly was also excited. Stop the car and load the pistol. 3 pistols were loaded at the same time, and the other 5 took out police shields and batons from behind and jumped out of the car. Don't move, raise your hands, Molly shouted loudly. Comrade, don't be nervous, we are not bad people. Li Qing threw away half of the cigarette butt in his hand. There was a thin layer of sweat on Mama's forehead. He didn't believe a single pinion of what Li Qing said. There were 5 corpses lying on the ground. Molly took the time to take a look, only to feel his teeth sour. He could clearly see that several people's hands and feet were bent, which was not something ordinary people could do. I warn you, don't move. Put down your weapons. Crow smiled and shouted at Molly, please, sir, we only have cigarettes and no weapons. Then he also threw the cigarette on the ground and spread his hands to show that it was harmless. Molly carefully took out the handcuffs and threw them over. Okay, you cuff the big fat man first. Mama pointed at Zhang Dongzhou and said. For him, the burly and inhuman Zhang Dongzhou across from him was the most dangerous, and he guessed that he had killed several people on the ground. Li Qing, Hong Kong Sheng, and Crow all looked at Zhang Dongzhou strangely. Big fat man. Zhang Dongzhou squatted down speechlessly, picked up the handcuffs on the ground, handcuffed himself, and said unconvinced, do you have taste? I'm not fat, I'm strong. Molly secretly muttered in his heart, who cares whether you are fat or strong when someone is dead? Hey, that strong man, lie down on the ground. Li Qing and the others looked at Molly speechlessly as if they were facing a formidable enemy. Xiu'er, I'm sorry for you. You are the only one among us who doesn't look like a good person. Be smart and get down. The crow covered his mouth and gloated. Pa, another pair of handcuffs was thrown over. Hey, cuff the one in the black leather jacket too. Crow looked at the opposite side in disbelief and pointed at himself. Me? Do you have any sense? I'm a good person. Zhang Dongzhou lay on the ground and looked at the crow with his head tilted. Hey, who is a serious person wearing leather clothes? Crow glared at Zhang Dongzhou, helplessly picked up the handcuffs on the ground, cuffed them on himself, and muttered in a low voice, Uncle Hat from Beijing has a hard time with his eyes. Do I look like a bad guy? At this time, Molly and others breathed a sigh of relief. They didn't care about Li Qing and Hong Kong Sheng, who looked harmless. A group of people stepped forward and surrounded Wu Wu and Zhang Dongxiu. Uncle Hat, take a look at the 5 people on the ground. Don't they look familiar? Li Qing's words made the deputy director Molly stunned. He was paying attention to the 2 people, Uniform Crow and Zhang Dongxiu, but he didn't pay attention to the 5 corpses on the ground. After hearing Li Qing's words, Molly stepped forward and took a closer look at the appearance of the 5 people. These 5 people turned out to be very similar to the Sap gang. There is still a sketch on his desk that the artist drew based on the narration of the person who was robbed. Sap gang. Molly said in shock. Masuo, what are you talking about? Hearing Molly's voice, other hat uncles also stepped forward to take a look. Although several of them had blood stains on their faces, the features on their facial features were still easily identifiable. Really? Oh my God, it's them. Hum. After seeing the corpses on the ground, the hat uncles looked at Li Qing and the 4 of them in surprise, with expressions of disbelief on their faces. Did you do this? Molly asked with some hesitation. Li Qing smiled and nodded. Is this considered self-defense? Then he pointed at the steel rods, hammers and other weapons scattered on the ground. Then the scene fell into a long silence. Molly started to take out his mobile phone. 5 lives had been lost. He had to report such a big thing. After a report, Molly came to Li Qing and said, "Sorry, you have to go to the institute with me." Li Qing shrugged indifferently. He knew that the necessary procedures still had to be followed. "Uncuff them," Molly instructed. Crow and Zhang Dongxiu stood up. Crow touched his wrist and whispered, "I haven't been arrested for a long time, I'm still a little uncomfortable." Zhang Dongxiu looked at him strangely. "What? It seems that you still miss it?" Crow tilted his head and thought for a while, "A little." Zhang Dongxiu. Molly left a few people to wait for others here, and he took 2 people to take Li Qing and others to the Dongcheng police station. Fortunately, it was a van, otherwise so many people would not be able to sit. When they arrived at the police station, Molly did not regard Li Qing and others as suspects. He felt that Li Qing and others were getting rid of harm for the people anyway. Although the means were a bit cruel, the result was good. According to Molly's mind, it was enough to shoot the stun gang twice. "What's your name?" Molly sat opposite Li Qing and took out a document. Li Qing didn't despise him, and took the fire from Molly with a smile and lit it. "Your surname is Li, and the single word is Cheng. Mr. Li Qing, you are not from Beijing, right?" Li Qing's Mandarin is very standard. Molly couldn't tell where he was from for a while, but he was sure that he was not a local. "From Hong Kong." "Oh? You speak very standard Mandarin." Molly looked at Li Qing in surprise. He had seen many people from Hong Kong, but they always spoke Mandarin with a Hong Kong and Taiwan accent. "Can you tell me the process of the incident?" Molly took out a small notebook and looked at Li Qing seriously. "Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all." Author, Banwan Qingbuletin Liang. Chapter 422. Li Qing smiled and looked at him and said, "Of course, we were eating roast duck from Quanjude." Li Qing explained everything in an organized manner from when he came out of Quanjude to when Uncle had arrived. Molly listened, took notes, and asked questions from time to time. In fact, when he was halfway through the transcript, he completely believed Li Qing's words. As a veteran police officer, he can keenly sense whether the other party is telling the truth. Moreover, when questioning, he deliberately used tricks to guide Li Qing. As a result, Li Qing's words were clear, logical, and impeccable. "Mr. Li Qing, where do you live?" After Molly finished taking notes, he started chatting. "Well, WZ Troop Guest House." When Molly heard the name of the guest house, his expression froze. As an old Beijinger, he knew that outsiders were not entertained there. In addition to those who entertain the troops, they are also distinguished guests of the military. Now that Li Qing and others live there, their status is self-evident. This matter involves the military, and Molly is a little undecided now. Masuo, a police officer, came over and whispered in Molly's ear, "Masuo, Fansuo is here and wants you to go." Such a big thing happened in Dongcheng. As soon as the top leader, Director Fan, received the call, he rushed to the police station without stopping. Ma smiled and said sorry to Li Qing, and hurried into the director's office with the transcript. "Lao Ma, what's the situation? I heard that 5 people died. Or was it a sap gang?" I couldn't explain it clearly on the phone, and Director Fan was confused. "Take a look. Hee, this sap gang was kicked onto the iron plate and was destroyed directly. Guess, we will still give them a banner." Mama smiled and handed the note in his hand to Director Fan. Director Fan took the transcript with a surprised look on his face. "Pennant? Is it possible?" Looking through the transcript quickly, the director's mouth opened wider and wider. This. Only then did Director Fan realize that what Molly said about sending the banner was not an exaggeration. "There is just a problem. After all, there are 5 lives," Director Fan said with a frown. "Humph, a good death. Such people would be cut to pieces in a feudal society," Molly said angrily. "This sap gang kills people, sells goods, and commits all kinds of evil. Rewarding them with a bullet is a humiliation of the bullet. By the way, Lao Fan, this Li Qing seems to have something to do with the military." Molly thought for a while and said. The director frowned when he heard this. "Military?" He lowered his head and thought carefully. As if he thought of something, he suddenly raised his head and looked at the word Li Qing on the record. "What do you think his name is?" Director Fan asked urgently. Molly didn't know what happened to Director Fan, and was startled. "Li Qing, Musili, the green of the grass." "Pa," the director patted his forehead. "Oh my God, it's really him." Monk Molly Jonger was confused. Who? This matter must be reported." "Old Ma, you go out first." The director kicked Molly out without saying a word. "Come back." The director took out his exquisite Taiguanyan from the cabinet and handed it to Molly. "Make tea for the guy outside." Molly muttered while holding the tea leaves in surprise. "Hey, the iron rooster has been plucked? Has Granddad learned to give alms?" "Get out," Director Fan laughed and cursed. After Molly walked out, he cleared his throat and started dialing his superiors. Li Qing was sitting in the police station, Hong Kong Shen was dozing off in his arms, and Zhang Dongzhou and Crow looked at the furnishings in the police station in boredom. "Brother, this is too simple." Crow looked at the chairs with yellow paint peeling off, revealing the original color of the wood. The tables were also old-fashioned. "Well, the conditions of domestic police stations are still quite different from those in Xiangjiang. But the workload is greater than that in Xiangjiang. Li Qing just saw several groups of hat uncles escorting criminal suspects past. You must know that it was late at night." "Huh," Li Qing sniffed, and there was a strong smell of Taiguanyan. "I saw Molly walking over carrying several white porcelain teacups with lids. Come on, Mr. Li Qing, you guys come and have tea. This is our director's treasure. Molly is not stupid. The director has brought the treasures. These few people in front of him are definitely not ordinary people." "Masuo, you're welcome. When can we go back?" Li Qing asked with a smile. He was not worried about himself, but felt a little sorry for the Hong Kong students staying up late with him. If Mr. Li Qing's case was a normal case, you would have been able to go back a long time ago. But after all, human lives are involved, so we have to wait. Molly said sheepishly. The matter was too big. Even though he knew that Li Qing and others were acting in self-defense, he did not dare to let them go rashly. Li Qing frowned. He also understood Ma Li. After all, he was the deputy director and he couldn't make the final decision on some things. After thinking about it, he took the phone out of his pocket and started looking for the phone number. He didn't plan to contact Chi Gang. After all, it was so late, and the military and police were not in the same system. It would be better to find the contact person assigned to him in his hometown. Hello. There was a lazy voice coming from the other side, obviously woken up by the mobile phone. Hello, I'm Li Cheng. The contact person opposite him sat up immediately. He had been assigned as Li Cheng's contact person, but this was the first time he called him. Mr. Li Cheng, what are your instructions? Li Cheng smiled. Instructions. Can't talk about it? I just need your help with something. Here's the thing. We are at the Dongcheng District Police Station in Beijing. Tonight. Hey? You mean you are in the capital now? The contact stood up from the bed. He did not expect that Li Cheng came to the capital. Yes, I will continue now, tonight. The contact person behind did not interrupt and listened carefully. It was not until Li Cheng voiced his request that the contact person said seriously, Mr. Li Cheng, please wait a moment, I will arrange it right away. Okay. Li Cheng hung up the phone first. Upstairs, the director was grinning and reporting to the deputy director in charge. He was also very excited to meet the legendary figure this time. Hey, let's not talk anymore. This time, I have to send a banner to others. The Sap gang has been wiped out in our Dongcheng district. This credit cannot go away. The director laughed. Oh, Lao Fan, I let you take advantage of me. Just wait, I will call the director and ask you for credit. The deputy director patted his head and secretly sighed at Lao Fan's good luck. At this time, Director Fan's cell phone rang. He looked at the number on the phone, smiled and said into the phone, no, the director has already called. I'll hang up first. Director Fan directly connected the phone, and a scolding came from the phone, old Fan, what are you doing? The landline has been unable to get through. Director, Stop me, have you captured Li Cheng? You can do it? You dare to capture the heroes of the Chinese nation? No, Director, What am I doing? Let me go immediately. The National Bureau called me and asked me what I wanted to do. They were acting in legitimate defense and acted bravely. Okay, don't talk anymore. Let me go back and rest first. I came all the way here. I am already in a bad mood when encountering such a thing, and you are still detaining me. Director Fan was about to burst into tears as he listened to the busy tone on the phone and muttered, at least, let me finish what I have to say. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 423. Director Fan did not dare to delay and walked out quickly. He stepped forward and held Li Cheng's hand. Mr. Li Cheng, I'm really sorry. This is a necessary procedure. I'll move faster in the future and record the notes. Director Fan glared at Lao Ma dissatisfiedly. When Molly heard Director Fan's words, his eyes widened like bells. He didn't know what kind of illness Lao Fan had. The sound of was stuck in the throat and did not come out. Thank you Mr. Li Cheng for cooperating with our work. Director Fan took Li Cheng's hand and shook it twice. Li Cheng smiled and said, Director, you're welcome. This is what every Chinese should do. Although he didn't know the last name of the director, he knew from Molly's expression that this was the director of the Dongcheng District Police Station. Director Fan's eyes lit up when he heard the word Chinese. It's too late today, Lao Ma, you drive Mr. Li Cheng back. He did not dare to delay matters assigned by his superiors. No, I'll take Mr. Li Qing back. A sudden voice sounded from outside the door. A young man walked in quickly. He was said to be a young man, but in fact he looked similar to Li Qing. Molly frowned. Who are you? The young man took out his work permit from his pocket and handed it to Molly. Molly took it and looked at it carefully. There were 3 big characters written on the work permit, National Bureau of. The hat guys in the police station looked at the scene and were curious about who could get someone from country A to pick him up in person. Lao Ma immediately recognized that the number inside was a special number, saluted, and returned the work permit in his hand. The young man opposite also returned the salute, then turned to Li Qing and said, "Mr. Li, please follow me." Li Qing nodded, smiled, and said goodbye to Director Fan and Molly. Director Fan looked at Li Qing's back and sighed. It was a pity that he didn't have a proper conversation with this legendary figure. Mama looked at Director Fan's expression and then at Li Qing's back. "Old Fan, there's something wrong with you. Who is this Li Qing? The flattering way you smiled just now is similar to the last time the director came to inspect." Director Fan had a black line on his face. "When did you see me flattering you? I was obviously showing respect." "I'm telling you he is." "Director, the forensic report," a police officer hurried over. "Huh? So fast?" Molly looked at his watch. It seemed that it had been less than 3 hours. When did forensic medicine become so efficient? Director Fan glanced at Molly and took the report. "This is the preliminary autopsy report. I asked the people over there to do something special and send it to me as quickly as possible." "Huh?" Director Fan looked at the autopsy report and made a surprised sound. Molly couldn't help but look over, and saw the autopsy report. Scorched temperature, middle score, limb joints were bent, multiple comminuted fractures in the body, the eyeballs were suspected of being burned, and fragments of the tongue were found in the mouth, suspected of being minced. Fatally injured, the heart was penetrated by a sharp instrument, causing extensive ischemia. Ma Jun, a tall man, suffered comminuted fractures in the joints of his limbs. His cheek was suspected to have been hit hard with a blunt instrument, causing fractures in his facial bones. His eyeballs were suspected to have been burned. Fragments of his tongue were found in his mouth, and he was suspected to have been minced. He suffered fatal injuries, his cervical vertebra was violently bent, and he died of suffocation. Neumann, the joints of the limbs are reflexed. Molly frowned. In all his years as a police officer, he had never seen anyone with such cruel methods. Who is this Li Qing? His bodyguards are really dirty. Director Fan took the autopsy report and said, "Tisk, tisk, how cruel. Bodyguard. Haha, that's his right-hand man." Director Fan looked at Molly with a mysterious face. Right hand, Molly was a little stunned. "You haven't thought of it yet? This Mr. Li Qing is." Director Fan didn't say anything clearly, but just pointed towards the south. Then he handed Molly the autopsy report in his hand. Molly was still confused, looking at Director Fan who was slowly walking away. "Hey, old Fan, who is he? You should tell me clearly. I can't wrap my head around it, and it's not like you don't know." Director Fan looked back at his old friend helplessly and uttered 2 words, "Java." Molly was stunned for a moment and turned his head. You mean. He is Li Qing." Director Fan nodded solemnly. Molly stood there for a long time. "Oh my God, I met a living devil, a living bodhisattva. Tisk tisk, I should have known I wanted an autograph." At this time, other hat uncles who saw Director Fan walking away gathered around. "What's the matter? What's the matter? Why do you want to sign?" Molly glanced at them and said, "War off evil spirits." Then he clapped the autopsy report in his hand mockingly. "This sap gang is really unlucky. You can even encounter him. Should I say you are lucky? Or bad luck?" A group of uncles with hats scratched their heads and looked at the two directors in confusion as they walked away shaking their heads. Ken's signatures ward off evil spirits. Mr. Li Qing, we've arrived at the guest house, the contact turned to Li Qing and said with a smile. Okay, thank you. Brother Li Qing opened the car door and helped Hong Kong Sheng get out of the car. Mr. Li Qing, if you need anything, please feel free to contact me, the contact said politely. Li Qing waved his hand, indicating that he understood. Then he walked into the guest house with Hong Kong Sheng, Crow, and others. The contact looked at the backs of Li Qing and others and smiled, drove the car to the side of the road, lay down in the car and closed his eyes. A few dozen meters in front of his car, there were several black commercial vehicles parked. Zhang Dongzhou was very alert. He noticed several cars parked on the roadside when he got off the car just now. Brother, we seem to be under surveillance. Li Qing smiled and patted Zhang Dongzhou's shoulder. It's okay. These people are here to protect us. Whether it's protection or surveillance, it doesn't matter to Li Qing. Anyway, he didn't plan to stay for long. He had to go back after discussing business with Qi Gang. It's good to have them there. They can solve unnecessary troubles, such as this incident of the stun gang. Okay, go back to the room and rest quickly. Tomorrow morning, I will take you to drink soy milk. Li Qing opened his room and smiled and instructed. Crow looked at his watch and yawned, brother, good night. Good night. The next day, Crow pulled Zhang Dongzhou up early in the morning. Damn, Crow didn't go to bed until 2 o'clock in the morning yesterday, and it's only 7 o'clock now. Are you sick? Zhang Dongzhou complained with squinting eyes. Big brother said he would invite us to drink. Does he? Hurry up and don't waste time. Wu Ya said energetically. Hong Sheng on the other side also got up early and took a shower at around 6 o'clock. Li Qing couldn't sleep because of all the fuss. He simply got up and went out with the three of them. He didn't look for another place, but went directly to the Duzzy shop in Sci-fi that the taxi driver mentioned yesterday. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 424. Sci-fi Bean Juice Store, Tiantan Branch, is considered the most famous bean juice store in Beijing, located opposite the north gate of the Temple of Heaven. Even though it was still early, the store was already bustling with people. Old Beijing residents were chatting about family affairs while eating Beijing movies. They took a sip of bean juice and a bite of burnt rings. If they felt it was not enough, they could add some sugar to burn it. That's an authentic thing. Li Qing and the three Hong Kong students heard the noise from far away. This is it. Crow curiously looked inside. If nothing else, it's so popular, and the food inside is delicious. The crow swallowed the saliva that was about to drip out. Zhang Dongzhou also had curiosity in his eyes, and he stepped forward to take a look, only to see bowls of bean juice being served to the table. You can vaguely see a large pot standing in the transparent kitchen. It was taken out of the oil pot with a golden burnt ring and placed on an iron rod. Hey, who are you? The waiter walked up and asked with a smile. 4. You come with me. The waiter was very enthusiastic and took Li Qing and others to sit in a corner with empty seats. Li Qing had eaten with his roommate in Beijing in his previous life, so he ordered 4 bowls of bean juice, 10 burnt rings, and 3 plates of side dishes. By the way, I ordered some breakfast for the staff in several commercial vehicles parked not far away and asked the waiter to deliver it. In fact, when he first entered the door, Crow smelled an indescribable smell, a little sour, well, a little rancid. Brother, this place doesn't seem to be very hygienic. Crow looked around and saw the old men and women sitting on the mats, drinking bean juice and eating fried rings. These words immediately attracted the attention of the surrounding adults, with some anger in their eyes. Young man, you can easily get beaten if you talk like this, said the old man who was sitting next to Mazza, drinking bean juice. Li Qing had a black line on his face. Keep your voice down, I don't care if you want to be beaten. How did you see that it was unhygienic? Crow slapped his nose and whispered, well, there is a sour smell, something must be broken. Li Qing looked at him without saying anything but smiling. After a while, the food Li Qing ordered was brought out. 4 bowls of bean juice were placed, and the rich sour taste became even stronger. Yeah, brother Qing, the ones with the burnt ring are the fried dough sticks. Li Qing nodded. Except for the different shapes, the ingredients are basically the same and the taste is similar. In fact, in some northern areas of China, the burnt rings are also directly called fried dough sticks. The main raw material of this bean juice is mung beans. After the starch is filtered out to make vermicelli, the remaining residue is fermented. The uncle from Jingchen next to him was familiarizing himself with popularizing knowledge among the 4 of them. Uncle, are you saying that soybean juice is made from fermented dregs? Crow looked at the sour soybean juice in front of him in surprise. Yes, you can say that. You can have a taste. It tastes very good. The uncle smiled mysteriously and let them experience it themselves. Sour, sweet, and bitter are all present in it, and you will be lifted to heaven in one bite. After hearing what the uncle said, the 3 of them curiously picked up the bean juice and looked at it. The crow listened to the advice and took a sip directly. A sour taste with a sour taste hit his taste buds. The expression on Crow's face began to slowly change, the corners of his mouth curled up, his eyes were slightly closed, then his neck was raised, and his hair became explosive. Then he slowly opened his eyes, with faint tears streaming down his face. He opened his mouth and bared his big white teeth, and then pursed his lower lips tightly. How is it? How is it? Zhang Dongzhou asked curiously. Hong Kong Sheng also looked at the crow intently. Crow took a serious look at Zhang Dongzhou and said, Xiu'er, this is simply the best thing I've ever had. You didn't see it, it tasted so good that I shed tears. Crow wiped the tears from his eyes. Really? Zhang Dongzhou picked up the bean juice and smelled it. Liar, you're a dog, Crow assured, patting his chest, and then took another big sip. Zhang Dongzhou didn't notice anything was wrong, so he directly picked up the bowl and took a big sip. Hong Kong Shen next to him also wanted to take a sip, but Li Qing quietly pressed down, causing Hong Kong Shen to look at him strangely. The first sound was from Zhang Dongzhou, and the second sound was from the crow after knowing that Zhang Dongzhou drank. The 2 of them spit out the bean juice in their mouths one after another. Ahem, Crow, your uncle. Ahem, I finally tricked you. The uncles and aunties around all laughed. They knew just now that these people were here to experience Jingcheng bean juice, so they paid attention to a few people. Sure enough, I saw the expected expressions on their faces. Zhang Dongzhou wore a mask of pain, with bean juice still remaining at the corner of his mouth. Maid, you are deep in the ice. You, Goshiu, do you know how hard I endured just now? Crow kept retching. It wasn't until the 2 of them rinsed their mouths with tea that the sour taste in their mouths was not that strong. At this time, Hong Kong Sheng also knew why Li Qing stopped her, but her curiosity was still like a cat scratching her. Brother Qing, is it really that bad to drink? It's not that bad actually, it's just that they drink it the wrong way. Come, look at me. Li Qing took a sip of the bean juice and looked at Hong Kong Shen with a smile without any expression on his face. Hong Kong students did not doubt that he was there and took a sip. The sour taste rushed directly from the taste buds to the nasal cavity. Ahem, you. Hong Kong students also felt the pain of Crow and Zhang Dongzhou. Li Qing patted Gang Sheng on the back and spat out the soy milk in his mouth into the trash can. Forget it, seeing how miserable you are, I'll change it to soy milk for you. Waiter, bring 4 bowls of soy milk. Wu Ya and Zhang Dongzhou were stunned by what they saw. It was also the first time they saw their elder brother cheating their elder sister-in-law. The old man next to him patted Wu Ya on the shoulder. "Young man, outsiders have to go through this when they come to Beijing. Soy milk is really a delicacy for people who are used to it." After saying this, the old man took a sip of soy milk in a boastful manner. Wu Ya's nausea, which had been suppressed, was aroused by the old man's words and surged up again. "Ugh." The old man saw him like this and shook his head regretfully. What a blessed person. The four people ate this breakfast with soy milk and pickled vegetables. Until they walked out of the soy milk shop, Gang Sheng still glared at Li Qing with a reproachful look. She rarely saw her man have such a childish side. After walking out of the door, Li Qing waved to the black business car not far away, and took a taxi back to the guest house. Not long after arriving at the guest house, Qi Gang arrived and looked at the black business cars outside the guest house. "Xiao Lu, go ask which unit they are from," Qi Gang said in a deep voice. Friends from the army came to monitor, which was more or less disrespectful. Not long after, Xiao Lu came over to report, "Minister Qi, it was someone from National A who came to protect Mr. Li Qing. Yesterday." Xiao Lu repeated what he knew from National A. Qi Gang frowned. Brother Li didn't come to him for such a big thing, but alarmed National A instead. Then Qi Gang sighed, and after thinking about it, he also knew what Li Qing was thinking. After all, the army and the hat are two systems, and sometimes it is really difficult to intervene in local affairs. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 425. Brother Li, you didn't tell me about such a big thing last night. Isn't this a slap in my face? Qi Gang looked at Li Qing a little angry, with reproach in his tone. Brother Qi, it was too late last night. I'm sorry to disturb your rest. Li Qing smiled and waved his hand. In fact, he didn't want to involve too many people. After all, if the army asked the hat directly for people, they would have to go through the capital government, which would invisibly make the matter bigger. There is no guarantee that someone will not complicate the problem. It is better to go directly to country A and solve the problem neatly. After all, no matter how big this thing is, it is just an over-defense, not to mention that the other side is full of robbers and murderers. This means that in China, if the beautiful country was not so troublesome, they would have been directly taken to the crematorium. "Why are you having an affair with me?" Qi Gang said dissatisfied. Next time something happens, I'll report it to you immediately," Li Qing joked. "You kid." Qi Gang smiled and nodded to Li Qing. "By the way, have you had breakfast? Do you want me to take you to eat?" "No, I just took them to drink bean juice." Qi Gang suddenly realized that no wonder he had just seen the big man chewing gum desperately. It turned out that he had just gone to drink soy juice. How do you feel?" Qi Gang asked with interest. "Well, they were quite unforgettable, and I'm still thinking about it now." Qi Gang suddenly felt that he, Brother Li, had really snatched away all the panda's bamboo shoots. The two chatted for a few more words, but did not dare to waste too much time, because today Qi Gang was taking Li Qing to see his boss, Zhou Feng, the Minister of National Defense Logistics Support. The car with military license plates entered directly into the General Staff building, which basically included most of the top brass of the army except for the feudal officials. Li Qing took a look with emotion. He had never seen this place up close in his previous life, and he was not even qualified to see it from a distance. "Brother Li, our left minister has a good temper. Don't be nervous." Qi Gang thought Li Qing was nervous and comforted him in a low voice. Li Qing didn't explain, just nodded. Qi Gang took Li Qing to Zhou Feng's office and knocked gently on the door. "Come in." A middle-aged, slightly majestic voice came from inside. "Minister, this is Mr. Li Qing." The general, who had some gray hair on his temples and was wearing a military uniform with 3 stars hanging on his shoulders, stood up, stretched out his hand and shook Li Qing's right hand vigorously. "Mr. Li Qing, welcome to you. What you did in Java is really refreshing," Zhou Feng said to Li Qing with a smile. Zhou Feng made no secret of his admiration for Li Qing. He was a typical hawk. He supported Li Qing's iron-blooded methods in Java from the bottom of his heart. "Minister Zhou, thank you for your praise. You should call me Li Qing. I don't think any capable Chinese would stand idly by in that situation," Li Qing said modestly. He also knew some of the deeds of General Zhou. General Zhou was Qi Gang's old superior during the self-defense and anti-war war against Vietnam. He made great contributions in that war, but he was punished for some actions of killing prisoners. Otherwise, the position would be higher than it is now. "I'll call you General Li. Please sit down." Zhou Feng stretched out his hand and made a gesture of invitation. "Please." Zhou Feng said straight to the point, "General Li, Qi Gang has already reported the general situation to me. Do you have any specific requirements here?" Li Qing thought for a while. What the beautiful country wants is Soviet-made equipment. In order to avoid trouble, our side still has to go through it in order to save face. The beautiful country must know the ultimate source of weapons, but it can't go too far on the surface. Originally, they wanted AK-47, and it wouldn't be a problem for you to just send a batch of 56 submachine guns to them. "What do you mean?" Minister Zhou Feng hesitated and asked. "Ahem, I mean, don't we have a lot of imitation weapons made by the Soviet Union? Just stop imitating them and just make them." Li Qing touched his nose and said softly. Minister Zhou Feng instantly understood what Li Qing meant. In fact, this matter is not difficult. It just requires changing the production line of the arsenal. "Well, that's a good idea." Zhou Feng nodded, but now there was a problem in front of him. Originally, he wanted to use Li Qing to solve some of the arms that were already at the bottom of the box. Now that Li Qing proposed this condition, he couldn't say anything. Zhou Feng pondered for a moment and stared at Li Qing with burning eyes. "Ah Qing, I have something to ask you for help." Minister Zhou's words frightened Li Qing. Good guy, Ah Qing has called him. This favor is definitely not that easy to help. But Li Qing's expression remained unchanged and he said without missing a beat, "Mr. Zhou, as long as it is within Qing's ability, I will definitely help." Zhou Feng glanced at Li Qing with a smile, "Little fox. Haha, you know we have a backlog of imitation Soviet-made weapons similar to the 56 submachine gun. If we don't get rid of them, they will become scrap metal." Li Qing was relieved when he heard this. He thought he was being asked to hand over the big firecracker. This matter is a little difficult for others. After all, no one can eat so much goods, but it is easy to solve for Li Qing. The African black man doesn't care about the model of your gun. In their eyes, all guns are similar, they shoot out bullets, and they don't even take a look at the crosshairs. In fact, this matter is also very beneficial to Li Qing. After all, taking such a large order from the beautiful country will inevitably affect arms sales in other regions. Taking over these stocks of the hometown can also solve the urgent problem. Li Qing pretended to be embarrassed. "Minister Zhou, the hometown is in trouble, I will sell everything I have to solve it, don't worry, I will take all these stocks. Even if they can't be sold and rot in the warehouse, I will buy them." Zhou Feng looked at Li Qing's righteous look and was speechless for a moment. As a senior executive of the hometown, he knew Li Qing's strength very well. "Okay, take this batch of stocks at 30% off." "Minister Zhou, don't worry, I will take it even if I lose everything." 40% off, take it? Well, I can also take it by selling other industries. 50% off, it must be settled in US dollars, otherwise let them rot in the warehouse as scrap metal. Ahem, no problem, I will send someone to pick up the goods immediately. Li Qing smiled innocently and changed his words immediately. In fact, at the 50% off price, both Li Qing and the hometown can make a profit. After all, it is inventory. Although it is well stored, it is really difficult for the hometown to sell it in the current form. Now Li Qing can take all of it directly, which can not only generate foreign exchange for his hometown, but also make a lot of money for himself, so why not? Li Qing himself knew that this was a return of favor from his hometown, and he could not refuse his hometown's kindness. Minister Zhou, I will send a professional team to coordinate the specific details. Li Qing smiled and stood up and shook hands with Minister Zhou Feng. Okay. General Li, then I will welcome you. No, you should call me Ah Cheng. Li Qing only muttered in his heart, good guy, just now it was Ah Cheng, now it's General Li, this change is too fast. Zhou Feng smiled and did not refuse and changed his words directly. After all, calling him more intimately can bring the two sides closer. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 426. Qi Gang took Li Qing out of Minister Zhou Feng's office and wiped the sweat from his head. Brother Li, you are so brave. This is the first time I have seen someone dare to bargain with my old group leader. You are awesome. Qi Gang gave Li Qing a thumbs up. No, brother Qi, Minister Zhou is taking care of me, Li Qing said with a serious face. The two walked a few steps side by side, and Qi Gang said, you deserve this, and you should be given a medal. Qi Gang's voice was so low that even Li Qing couldn't hear him clearly. Li Qing knew what his hometown meant, and his current status was indeed not good enough to have too much involvement with his family. Especially now that Li Qing's status in Southeast Asia needs to be avoided in some aspects, after all, his current hometown is not strong enough. Haha, brother Qi, we've finished talking about the business. I'm going to take a few of them to see the great rivers and mountains of our motherland in the next few days. Li Qing said deliberately. He is a Chinese. No matter what others think, in addition to considering his own interests, if he is able, he can help his hometown solve some problems. He is very happy. Yes, there are many scenic spots and historic sites in the capital that are very good. You must take advantage of this visit. In the afternoon, I will accompany you. Li Qing waved his hand quickly. No, I will just take them there myself, you can do your business. He knew that Qi Gang must be busy, and he estimated that he had to do a lot of work in the past 2 days, so how could he waste time with him? Under Li Qing's strong refusal, Qi Gang gave up the idea of accompanying him. At noon, Qi Gang prepared a table of delicious food and called a few familiar colleagues in the army to drink with Li Qing. There was no prohibition for about 2,000 years. The banquet lasted from noon to about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and Li Qing finally saw Qi Gang's drinking capacity. Not to mention anything else, Crow Crow and Zhang Dongxiu, who blocked his drink, couldn't withstand everyone's turn to toast. In the end, my plans for an afternoon trip were ruined, and tomorrow will definitely be another day of sluggishness. Sure enough, early the next morning, Zhang Dongxiu and Wu Wu had fluffy hair and looked listless. Because the alcohol I drank yesterday was the house wine, I didn't have a headache like drinking too much whiskey or other foreign alcohol, but I still had a stomach cramp caused by alcohol. This time I opened my eyes. These people are really good at drinking. Wu Wu held Zhang Dongxiu's shoulder with one hand and covered his abdomen with the other. Zhang Dongxiu glanced at Crow with disdain. This guy drank under the table yesterday. Maid, take your hands away, you spit on my shoe yesterday. Zhang Dongxiu pulled down Crow's hand. Goshiu, have you forgotten how my brother saved you? You have no conscience. Li Qing looked at the two people bickering in a funny way. Are you two going to go to the Great Wall? After saying that, he ignored the two of them and pulled Hong Kong students out of the guest house. At this time, other senior military officials also knew about the cooperation with Li Qing. Regarding Li Qing's generosity, some senior executives secretly calculated the accounts. With the order business and inventory processing, the plan that had been set long ago could be fully implemented. Old Zhou, boy, Li Qing is really a blessing. With this large amount of funds, our plan can be implemented ahead of schedule. A man with gray hair and 3 gold stars on his shoulders said with a smile. Yeah, it's really unintentional. I've told you before that this guy is good. Zhou Feng also smiled and echoed, to be honest, this guy has a very high emotional and IQ. He understands exactly what I mean, and he handles things flawlessly. No one can find anything against him. No wonder he is already the overlord at such a young age. When the money is in place, we'll start taking action. I think even if the money is available, we still have to wait. Wait? When? How many years have we been waiting for? This matter cannot be rushed. Only when the United States is entangled in the war can we have a chance. Besides, the best time has not yet come. Let's wait. The country's self-improvement is in my generation, just wait a little longer. The voices in the conference room slowly fell silent. But in a small conference room upstairs not far from here, there was a heated discussion. Coincidentally, the object of the quarrel was also Li Qing. You have to be careful about this matter, don't let the hero's hearts fall, a middle-aged man in his 50s with gold-rimmed glasses said seriously, patting the table. That is, the redistribution of casino licenses is to allow certain forces to completely withdraw from the Hejiang gambling industry, and is not aimed at Li Qing. Well, yes, you haven't heard that Li Qing has a very close relationship with the army now and has made a great contribution to the development of the army. What do you want to do? I tell you that the army is very protective. Everyone agreed. The people on the other side looked at them with a wry smile. We didn't mean that. We also admire what Li Qing did. But giving him all the licenses is a bit too much. Yes, we know that he is a hero and all the license plates are in his hands. With his temperament, Li Qing will definitely not do anything that harms the country. But who can guarantee that his descendants will not? Well, the debate is just about giving all the licenses or most of the licenses. Should we ask the parties for their opinions? There was a temporary calm in the conference room. Everyone was thinking about this sentence and how this matter could be good for the country without chilling Li Qing's heart. The middle-aged man with gold-rimmed glasses held his chin and thought carefully for a moment. How about we ask Li Qing what he thinks? It would be useless to continue arguing like this, so why not ask the parties concerned for their opinions? The middle-aged man waved his hand, and a young man who looked like a secretary hurried over. Where is Li Qing now? Director, Mr. Li Qing is now at the Badaling Great Wall. At this time, Li Qing and others were excitedly climbing the Great Wall. Roar, if you haven't been to the Great Wall, you're not a hero. I'm a hero now, Xiu'er. The crow looked away. Zhang Dongzhou ignored the crow's antics and looked around excitedly. He had heard the saying that if you haven't been to the Great Wall, you're not a hero since he was a child. Today, he finally came to the Great Wall, which fulfilled a wish of his childhood. Brother Qing, the scenery here is so beautiful. Gang Sheng stood by the wall with his arms open, and the breeze blew through her hair, bringing the fragrance of her hair to Li Qing's face. Yes, I'll take you to travel all over the country if I have the chance. Really? Yeah, Li Qing kissed Gang Shen's cheek. What are you doing? Get out of here, stay away. Crow's roar sounded not far from Li Qing. It turned out that a foreigner with 2 tattooed men came towards Li Qing, but was stopped by Zhang Dongzhou and Crow. Li Qing frowned and looked at the foreign man not far away. Hello, Mr. Li Qing, I am Franks from 4R. Li Qing frowned even more. He knew that 4R was one of the stronger gangs in Obang country, but New World seemed to have had little communication with them. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 427. At this time, several national personnel wearing black suits appeared not far away, walking quickly with their right hands touching their lower back. Li Qing smiled and waved his hand, telling them not to stir up trouble. I don't take these 4R people seriously, not to mention that this is China, and they don't have the courage to cause trouble here. 4R. Yes, Your Excellency Li Qing, I am Franks, the leader of 4R. Franks said respectfully. Dongxiu, Crow, let him come over, Li Qing said softly. The leader of 4R came to meet him in person, and even encountered him on the Great Wall. It must be something serious. Franks is of typical Aban descent, with a bit of red in his hair. Unfortunately, like most middle-aged Europeans, he is starting to go bald. Li Qing stared at the pudgy Franks in front of him. Mr. Franks, it seems that the New World has little contact with 4R. What do you want from me? Franks respected Li Qing very much. Your Excellency Li Qing, although we have not had much contact with each other, I have been known to you for a long time. This visit is mainly to seek cooperation with you. Li Qing smiled after hearing Frank's hi-hat. The gangsters were all unwilling to do anything early, so he knew that the other party was not that simple. Oh? Cooperation. In what way? Li Qing feels that this Franks is a bit interesting. The New World has never developed in Aban. The main reason is that Aban does not have what he needs, and the gangs in Aban are too fragmented, and Li Qing does not want to invest a lot of human and financial resources. Unexpectedly, 4R came to his door, which was a bit beyond his expectation. Hejiang spinach industry, Franks blurted out. As soon as he finished speaking, in this somewhat warm early summer, he suddenly shivered and felt a sudden cold wind blowing by. Li Qing had a dull face and looked at Franks expressionlessly, as if he were looking at a pile of dead meat. Even Wu Wu and Zhang Dongxiu looked at Franks with evil smiles, and glanced at Franks' two bodyguards from the corner of their eyes. Franks looked up at Li Qing. He found a dead silence in Li Qing's eyes, and his dark brown eyes swallowed him up like an abyss. Only then did he realize that he seemed to have said the wrong thing. No, Mr. Li Qing, maybe I didn't explain it clearly. What I mean is that we will unite to defeat the Shell family that controls the casino in beautiful country. The Sher family. Yes, I'm receiving inside information that the Sher family wants to obtain the Hejiang casino license. Franks was afraid of being misunderstood by Li Qing again, so he didn't dare to say everything. Li Qing frowned slightly and thought for a moment. You mean the Sher family wants to get involved in the Hejiang casino license? Franks nodded and sighed. Not only do they want to get involved in Hejiang casino, they even want to get involved in Sydney's casino. Li Qing knew that Aobang continent had now become the continent with the largest coverage of professional casinos. Since the largest casino was built in Sydney in 1997, 14 casinos have been opened in Sydney in a short period of time. Therefore, Sydney has become the fifth major gambling city in addition to the beautiful gambling city, the Chinese Hejiang, the beautiful Atlantic City, and Monaco. Li Qing didn't say anything. He didn't expect that the Xie family would want to interfere with the license of Huiguo Hejiang Casino. The crow snorted coldly upon hearing this, and dared to snatch food in front of the tiger, fearing that it had never died before. Li Qing's eyes flickered and he glanced at Franks. What can I get? Franks lowered his head and thought for a while. Our two families will equally share the Sher family's casino in Aban. Not enough. This condition is not enough to make me and the Sher family fall out. Li Qing shook his head. Franks was anxious for a moment, but the Sher family wants to get involved in Hejiang casino. Li Qing walked to the edge of the Great Wall, patted the crenel, and looked at it. No one can get the Hejiang casino license without my consent. Hejiang Spinach is the private land of the New World. Anyone who dares to make any decisions will have his hands cut off. Franks didn't know why Li Qing was so confident. He had to know that his gang, as the top gang in the Aban platoon, had also had several casinos taken away by the Shear family. Franks gritted his teeth and said, "As long as Your Excellency Li Qing helps me expel the Shell family and take back the casino, all the other casinos in Sydney owned by the Shell family will be given to the New World." Not enough. Franks was choked and speechless. If there was no one in Aban to help him, why would he come to Li Qing like this? "Say it, Your Excellency Li Qing." Franks directly asked Li Qing to mention it himself. "Okay then, take 4R's arms from me from now on." Franks: "Impossible, absolutely impossible. Mr. Li Qing, you know very well that the entire Aban arms are monopolized by the Beautiful Country arms dealers. In fact, not only Aobang, but also Maple Leaf Country in the northern part of Beautiful Country is in the same situation. These two countries have become the back garden of the Beautiful Country, and the arms dealers of the Beautiful Country will not allow others to get involved. Sorry, I can't help you with this, but thank you for telling me the news." Li Qing knew in his heart that 4R was basically cornered, otherwise he wouldn't have come all the way to China to find him. As expected by Li Qing, at the moment he turned to leave, Franks gritted his teeth and said, "Wait a minute, Your Excellency Li Qing, we agree to your conditions." Li Qing still didn't stop. "Okay, let's go back and wait for the news. In fact, supplying only 4R arms can't make much money. Li Qing just wants to use this opportunity to tear down the barriers of the arms dealers in the United States. If it doesn't work, he can fight a price war with them. After all, his side is cheap, strong, and durable. He doesn't believe that he can't beat the fancy American equipment." Franks looked at the backs of Li Qing and others going away. His face was uncertain. He didn't know whether his decision was right or wrong. "Forget it, let's go. Everything will be settled after the dust settles." According to his guess, the Shear family is eyeing the Macau gambling license and must have a fight with New World. As the largest gangster family in the United States casino, Shear is also well known internationally, otherwise he would not dare to rashly stroke the beard of New World. It is still unknown who will win the game between the two sides. Crow and Zhang Dongzhou followed behind Li Qing and Gang Shen, not daring to say a word, and the two pairs of eyes looked at their eldest brother from time to time. Gang Shen also looked at his man with worry, because they could clearly see that Li Qing was in a bad mood. Indeed, Li Qing had a dark face, and he hadn't felt so angry for a long time. He thought deeper than others, and foreign capital was suddenly eligible to participate in the competition for the casino license in Hejiang, which was very unusual. "Dongzhou, let Ajin check the information of the Shear family. I want the detailed information of their head of the family. Detailed to what time to eat, what time to take a bath." Li Qing's eyes condensed, and he sneered, "Since you want to eat Tang monk's meat, let's see if you have the ability. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all." Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 428. In the beautiful gambling city, the dark clouds in the sky have just dispersed, and the moonlight shines on a luxurious manner. Under the gorgeous chandelier in the villa, a father and son are arguing fiercely. "Father, I don't understand why you insist on Hejiang's gambling cards. Are you crazy? Isn't this a clear intention to start a war with the New World? Don't you know their strength?" Feynman Shell stood in front of his father Shell and shouted. Faced with his son's doubts, old Shear flicked the cigarette ashes in his hand. "Calm down, Feynman. If the Shear family wants to develop, it must face any difficulties calmly. This decision is the decision of the Presbyterian Council, and no one can change it." Old Shell pointed to the sofa next to him and motioned for Feynman to sit down. Now the Sher family has reached a bottleneck. We have casinos almost everywhere, but there is only one place we cannot enter. That is Hejiang, China. As long as we can capture China's Hejiang, our Sher family's reputation will reach its peak and become the largest gambling family in the world. Old Sher explained with a smile. Feynman sat on the sofa and shook his head. Father, there is no point. Provoking the enemy for no reason like this will only make us perish more quickly. Feynman was very clear-headed. He knew the New World, and his family simply did not have the strength to break up with the New World. I wonder if the Presbyterian Council is crazy enough to pass this resolution. Old Shell stared at Feynman for a long time and said, hand over the property and withdraw from the family. Feynman looked at his father in surprise, as if he couldn't believe it. What did you say? Father. Now, immediately, hand over the property and get out of the Sher family. Trash, you are not worthy to be the heir of the Sher family. Old Sher stood up and yelled. Even people in the entire villa could hear Old Sher's roar. Feynman lowered his head and sat opposite Old Shell with an ugly expression. He slowly reached out and pulled the badge representing the family heir from his neck. Placed gently on the table, the familiar lines on the badge glowed coldly. Feynman suddenly stood up and looked at his somewhat unfamiliar father. Father, I hope you will not regret it. This decision will lead the entire family into the abyss. Roll. When Feynman Shell walked out of the villa, the Old Shell sat slumped on the sofa and stared at Feynman's badge on the table in a daze. He seemed much older at this moment. Old Sher raised his head and looked in the direction of Huaguo. He hoped that the young overlord would understand what he meant. Father, eldest brother is gone. Old Shell's second son, Davis, staggered down the stairs and touched his nose with his right hand. Although talking to Old Shell, Davis's eyes never left the heir badge on the table. Well, Davis, your useless eldest brother is gone. Alas, the Sher family still needs you to stand up. Old Sher sighed and said to his second son, who was careless. Alas, my family is unfortunate. I'm a little tired, so I'm going to rest first. Old Xie stood up with a slight trembling, and walked towards the room with a cane. When he left, he wiped it on the table, put the heir badge in his pocket, and walked away slowly. Davis watched all his movements and stared at Old Shell's back with hatred. Old immortal, if you still hold it as a treasure now, I'll see when you die. At this time, Li Qing had no intention of playing anymore, and he immediately said goodbye to Qi Gang. Brother Li, why did you leave in just 3 days? There are still some interesting places in the capital. When Qi Gang heard that Li Qing was leaving, he felt unhappy. How many days had it been? I haven't had my second drink yet. Brother Qi, there is indeed something I need to handle in Hejiang. I'll come back next time when I'm free. By the way, say hello to Minister Zhou for me. Li Qing waved his hand and said with a smile. Seeing that Li Qing insisted on leaving, Qi Gang could not persuade him no matter how hard he tried, so he had no choice but to say goodbye to Li Qing and others. Li Qing also talked to his contact person, thanked the national personnel who had been protecting them these past few days, and immediately got on the plane. Qi Gang was sitting in the office, and the more he thought about it, the more he felt that something was wrong. Brother Li clearly said in the last phone call that he wanted to have fun for a few days, but he hurried back after only 3 days. He suddenly remembered what Li Qing said before leaving. Is there something wrong in Hejiang? Xiao Lu, come quickly. Minister Qi. Check it out, what happened in Hejiang recently? Okay, Minister Qi. Half an hour later, Qi Gang looked at the information about Hejiang on the document with a gloomy face. It clearly said, foreign bidding is allowed for Hejiang gambling licenses. Qi Gang slapped his hand on the table, causing the water glass to fly up. Mom, this is how they treat their heroes. Xiao Lu outside the door was startled when he heard the sound. He had never seen Minister Qi lose such a temper before. Bang! Qi Gang opened the door with a sullen face and walked out. He angrily took the materials and ran towards Minister Zhou Feng's office. "Captain, look, what did they do to this?" Qi Gang didn't even knock on the door this time, and pushed the door open directly. Zhou Feng glanced at him in shock. "Qi Gang, you are unorganized and undisciplined. What about your quality? Will you knock on the door?" Qi Gang put the materials in his hand on Zhou Feng's office angrily. "What do you think this is?" Zhou Feng picked up the material and took a look at it, and Qi Gang marked the key points with a red pen. "You bastard, you are making us uncomfortable." Zhou Feng was also furious. As soon as the army got benefits from Li Qing, they started to cut the salary from under the cauldron. Isn't this humming disappointing? But the decision has been made and it cannot be withdrawn. Just wait, I'll call right away and ask what it means. Zhou Feng called Qi Gang directly in front of him, and the two sides talked for almost half an hour before explaining the matter clearly. Qi Gang stared at Zhou Feng with big eyes, unblinking, waiting for his reply. Zhou Feng raised his head and was startled by Qi Gang's big face. "Stay away from me." "Minister, what's going on?" "Alas, there is nothing they can do about this matter." As soon as the news of the Hejiang gambling license came out, many foreign investors flocked to the company, and they could not withstand the pressure. "I'm really sorry for Li Qing. Rest assured, they will make it up to Li Xin." Minister Zhou Feng sighed. "What compensation?" Qi Gang asked curiously. "It's just, how did I know?" Okay, get out quickly, I still have work here." Zhou Feng, who was almost tricked by Qi Gang, glared at him impatiently. At this time, Li Qing, who had just gotten off the plane, also received Gao Jin's message. Li Qing carefully read the Xie family information sent by Gao Jin, and said with a smile, "This old bastard is a bastard. He actually wants to lend me this knife to kill people." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 429. It turns out that Nathan Shell, Old Shell, the patriarch of the Shell family, has long been ostracized by the family's Presbyterian council. The family elders took advantage of Old Shell's serious illness a few years ago to directly steal most of the Shell family's wealth. However, they did not expect that Old Shell could survive the operation. This time, the Presbyterian Church listened to someone's advice and tried to get a Hejiang casino license. Old Shell took advantage of this and directly agreed to the resolution of the family council of elders, because he knew that the New World would not let the Shell family reach out randomly. After passing the information in his hand to Zhang Dongzhou and others, Li Qing smiled coldly and said, "This old man wants me to help him regain control of the Xie family. Isn't he just being fanciful? If he wants Li Qing to follow his train of thought, he might be thinking too much." Li Qing was thinking about how to seize the Xie family's wealth, but was interrupted by a sudden cell phone ringtone. "Brother, from Hejiang." Wu Wu looked at his sister-in-law Hong Kong Sheng, quickly handed the phone to Li Qing, and whispered. Li Qing raised his eyebrows, looked at Hong Kong students unnaturally, and took the phone. Although the sound of the crow just now was small, but the distance was so close, Hong Kong Sheng actually heard it, but her expression was calm, as if she didn't hear it. Even when Li Qing answered the phone, he specifically asked Wu Yao to chat with Zhang Dongzhou. "Hello? Xiao Min." He Min's anxious voice came from the other end of the phone. "Brother Qing, did you see? Hejiang government allows foreign investors to bid for gambling licenses. Who is this and what is going on?" Li Qing knew that He Min must be anxious. After all, she had been taking care of Hejiang's industry. If such an uncontrollable situation suddenly appeared, it was inevitable that she would be left without control. Xiaomin, don't worry, I already know about this. With the current situation, foreign capital will definitely enter. This is a general trend. We can't stop it, but you can rest assured that I am still capable of obtaining most of the licenses. Li Qing comforted softly. In fact, after learning about this for the first time, he had a countermeasure in mind. Since this situation is no longer easy to change, why not use the current advantages to get more things for himself? After comforting He Min for a few more words, Li Qing hung up the phone. At this time, the car had arrived at Xiangjiang Villa. Li Qing felt a little distressed when he saw the tired Hong Kong student. You go take a bath and rest. I'll go up and accompany you after I finish my work. Then he kissed Hong Kong Sheng's forehead gently. Hong Kong Sheng knew that Li Qing had other business matters, so he nodded obediently and walked upstairs. Li Qing also asked Zhang Dongzhou and Wu Wu to go back and rest. After all, they finally came to Xiangjiang and they had their own matters to deal with. Especially Zhang Dongzhou, he probably went crazy thinking about his lawyer girlfriend. Zhang Dongzhou and Crow looked at each other, said hello to Li Qing, and hurried out of the villa. Crow, where are you going? I'll take you there, Zhang Dongzhou said. Where are you going? Crow asked curiously. Me? I'm going to find my girlfriend. Zhang Dongzhou didn't know why. Crow thought for a moment, tilted his head and said, how about, together? Zhang Dongzhou had a black line, stopped the car, opened the passenger door and pulled down the Crow. Get out. Get as far away as possible. Crow looked at the Mercedes-Benz driving away and shouted angrily, Zhang Dongzhou, you idiot. You actually left me on the road. Next time I save you, I will take your last name. At this time, Li Qing sat on the sofa and pondered for a while, then slowly straightened up and picked up the mobile phone on the table. Made an overseas call. Damn it, Li, do you know what time it is? On the other end of the phone came Alex's grumbling voice. Li Qing was stunned for a moment, then realized that it might be late at night in the beautiful country, and then he smiled evilly, Alex, it's time to get up and pee. There was silence for a while on the other side, only heavy breathing could be heard, and then a crash. Li Qing didn't expect Alex to be so obedient. Okay, Li. It's okay, I'm going to bed. I just dreamed of becoming the largest shareholder of New World Hotel, and I want to continue. Li Qing had a black line on his head, Baichi, you are dreaming. Haha. Alex on the opposite side laughed when he realized that Li Qing was angry with him. Okay, tell me what you have to say, I'm awake now. Alex sat up and leaned on the back of the bed, lighting a cigarette. Ahem, Alex, do you want the Hejiang casino license? Alex was stunned for a moment. He suspected that he heard wrongly. What did you say? I asked, do you want a Hejiang casino license? Alex opened his mouth in surprise, but he forgot about the cigarette in his mouth. The cigarette fell directly from his mouth and landed on his thigh. Ouch. Li Qing frowned and took the phone away. Are you so happy about a casino license? Is this like a gorilla? Still moaning. For a while, there was no movement on the phone. Just when Li Qing was about to hang up, Alex's voice came. Hiss, Li, you want to give me a Hejiang license plate? Hiss. You must know that Hejiang, as the second-ranked gambling city in the world, has always been controlled by New World. Li Qing suddenly gave up a casino license, which surprised him. After all, everyone knows the value of the Hejiang license, which is much more valuable than the license of Las Vegas Casino in the beautiful country. And he also knew that the Hejiang license allowed foreign capital to enter, but now that the American Mafia and the New World were in the honeymoon period, he didn't want to make Li Qing feel bad about this matter. I didn't expect Li Qing to bring it up himself. You're dreaming, buy it yourself. Alex was silent for a moment. He knew there was no such thing as a free lunch. Since Li Qing asked him to get involved in the gambling industry in Macau, he must have other requirements. Li, we are old friends. What are the conditions? Alex touched his thigh with blisters and asked with a grin. Li Qing raised his eyebrows. Sure enough, it's easy to talk to smart people. Do you know the Shell family in the Las Vegas casino in the United States? Alex's eyes flashed. Yes, I know. It's a top gambling family in the world. Join hands, swallow him, Li Qing smiled coldly. Since old Shell wants to borrow his knife, then I'll treat mine as this knife. Old Shell may never think that the knife he borrowed is a magic knife that can not only eliminate dissidents for him, but also swallow him up. Alex was silent for a long time. 2 license plates. Get lost, I'll go find Gianna. Don't, okay. 1 is enough, Alex said with a wry smile. Well, come to Hejiang before this Friday. No problem. Li Qing hung up the phone with a smile and looked at his watch. Well, it was exactly 2 o'clock in the morning in the United States. He took the phone and dialed a few more numbers. Damn it, Qing. If you don't give me a reason, I'll rush to your villa right away. Gigi's hysterical roar came from the other side. Ahem, sorry. I thought it was daytime in the United States. I'm in Hong Kong now. Li Qing raised the corner of his mouth and smiled with some evil taste. Don't you know the importance of sleep to women? Give me a reason not to be angry. Gianna lifted her long hair and took a sip of water from the cup on the bedside table. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Banwanqing Bulletin Liang. Chapter 430. It's nothing, I just want to tell you that Alex and I are working together to get rid of the Sher family. Li Qing yawned and said softly. Jaina frowned. They had little contact with the Sher family. They also knew that the Sher family specialized in the gambling industry and had casinos all over the world. Oh, Jaina was not interested in cooperating with Li Qing. Well, after it's done, we plan to divide the Shell family equally. I also promised to give Alex a Hejiang license plate. Jaina's eyes moved. Qing, I think we also need to cooperate, what do you think? Li Qing shuddered when he heard Jaina's sweet tone. I don't think it's necessary, right? Ahem, after all, there are only a few Hejiang casino licenses, so it's hard to divide them. It's necessary. The Sher family also has many casinos in Europe. You know, the American mafia has little power in Europe. Seeing Jaina taking the bait, Li Qing smiled and said, that's right, okay. You have the Hejiang license plate. Come to Hejiang on Friday. Rather than letting other foreign investors take away the casino license, it is better to let our allies win it, which can not only strengthen cooperation, but also make the Hejiang government save face. Anyway, it's all foreign capital, so there's no difference. Li Qing stood up and stretched, walked to the window and looked at the scenery. White clouds like fish scales filled the entire sky. He stretched out his hand towards the sky and shook it, as if he had everything under control. In the beautiful Las Vegas casino, in a dark room of the Golden Casino, Davis stood in front of several old men. These people are all from the line of great elders. Davis, are you saying that Nathan, old Shell, has kicked Feynman out of the family? One of the bald elders said in surprise. Davis nodded seriously. Yes, I'm sure he has kicked Feynman out of the family and taken back the heir badge. Several elders looked at each other in surprise. In their impression, old Shell had always cultivated Feynman as his heir, but unexpectedly he suddenly expelled Feynman from the family. Davis, what are they arguing about? A fat elder asked cautiously. He still didn't believe it. Davis frowned and thought about it. It seems to be for Hejiang's casino license. Feynman strongly opposed inviting the New World, while my father supported the decision of the family council of elders. The bald head and the fat elder looked at each other. In fact, when the family meeting was held, there were two groups, one opposed and the other approved. There was not much difference in the number of people on both sides. When it came time to vote, Old Shear voted in favor. You must know that in family meetings, one vote of the patriarch is equivalent to 2 votes of ordinary elders. So the meeting decided to bid for the Hejiang casino license. The patriarch's reasons for agreeing are also very good, for the development of the Shear family and to break the barriers of the East Asian spinach industry. It's impossible to refute. Okay, now that Nathan has made his decision, let's not discuss it. The important thing now is to get the Hejiang casino license. I guess there must be a lot of people competing, but I know inside information that there are 6 licenses. But only 3 will participate in the auction, because the other 3 genuine cards are given to the New World by default. So we are under a lot of pressure. The great elder, who always wore sunglasses, spoke. Also, this time Ivy, the fat elder, and Davis go to Hejiang together. No matter what method I use, I must get a casino license. Okay, let's break up the meeting. Davis, stay here. None of the elders said anything and walked out one by one. After all the elders had left, Davis cautiously walked up to the great elder. Father, what do you want from me? Davis, I've said this many times, don't call me father. Now is not the time. The elder glared at Davis. Great elder. Well, how is Nathan's situation? The great elder asked. Looking at that immortal appearance, he probably won't be able to hold on for too long. His appetite has decreased in the past few days, and he even has no appetite for his favorite blueberry pie. Davis said viciously. Well, keep an eye on him. Don't worry, Davis, you are my only son, and the Shear family will be yours sooner or later. The great elder stood up and patted Davis on the shoulder. Yes, great elder. Davis' face flashed with joy when he heard his biological father's promise. Time passed quickly, and in a blink of an eye, it was the day to bid for the Hejiang casino license. Alex and Jaina arrived on the same day. In order to entertain them, Li Qing specially booked the most authentic one. Come on, Gianna and Alex, try this Portuguese chicken. It should suit your taste. Li Qing enthusiastically picked up the Portuguese chicken with serving chopsticks and put it into their bowls. Hejiang's Portuguese chicken is a delicacy that combines Portuguese and Chinese cooking techniques. The chicken is cooked with Portuguese sausage and seasoned with chicken juice and white wine. The taste is very delicious. Gianna and Alex held the chopsticks unskillfully, picked up the chicken tremblingly and put it into their mouths. That look is no different from that of an 80 or 90-year-old man suffering from Parkinson's disease, who is afraid of accidentally dropping it on the ground. Well, not bad, not bad. Their eyes lit up. They didn't expect this plate of Chinese dishes to be so in line with their appetites. Li, I actually tasted the taste of Western food in Chinese cuisine. This dish is so delicious. Even better than General Tso's chicken. Alex swallowed the food in his mouth and gave a thumbs up. Li Qing smiled, you haven't eaten anything better yet. In fact, Hejiang is famous for its beef offal hot pot. I'll take you to try it in a few days. Really? That's great. I also want to try the real traditional Chinese dishes. Jaina looked expectant. By the way, how are you preparing? Li Qing put down his chopsticks and asked with concern. Well, it's ready. The auction will start tomorrow, and we'll act immediately. Alex drank a sip of soup and said softly. Jaina next to him also nodded. These days, the 3 of them have been arranging a raid on the Shell family. Li Qing plans to take down all the casinos of the Shell family at the moment the auction starts. Of course, in addition to violent means, they also need to attack in the financial field and try to defeat all the listed companies of the Shell family in a short time. Li Qing nodded, "That's good." Alex and Jaina also knew that Li Qing gave up the 2 gambling licenses in Hejiang, so he was also very generous in the distribution. He said that all the casinos of the Share family in the Las Casino in the United States would be given to Li Qing, and the 2 would share the remaining casinos in Europe and South America. By the way, the competition tomorrow will be fierce. How are your financial preparations? Li Qing asked again with concern. Well, I have prepared $2 billion. I have prepared $2.5 billion. Both of them were well prepared, and it seemed that they were determined to get the gambling license in Hejiang. Li Qing pondered for a while. He didn't remember the price of the gambling license in the previous life very clearly, but it should be between 12 billion and 16 billion Hong Kong dollars. Well, if there are no accidents, it should be enough.